Well, I've been coming to the ATS for about 35 years, wearing a lot of different hats. And last year was distinctly different. The Respiratory Innovation Summit was a watershed event for our organization, Hyfe. The company showed up as a young 2-year-old startup, and this was actually our first introduction to the respiratory innovation ecosystem. And I think I spent the better part of the next few months following up on the conversations that started during that conference, and I think a lot of those conversations played a big role in the rapid progress we've made in the last year. So I want to thank Michelle, wherever she is, and the other people who have created this incredibly important forum for young companies like ours, and also to the committee for inviting us to give the success story for the Respiratory Innovation Summit. Another thing that's happened in the last year is there's been an explosion of interest in artificial intelligence, largely in these large language models, and Hyfe is an AI company that's, our language is sound. Sound is an incredibly rich, data-rich, and informative signal. And Hyfe's core technology is the use of acoustic AI to recognize the sound of a cough from amidst all the other background sounds of daily life. Those algorithms run on smartphones and smartwatches, and we feel as though we're now poised to take on respiratory care from symptom to cure. In just 3 years, we've become the global leader in digital cough care. We've collected an enormous data set. We've processed about 15 billion data points. We've monitored 4 centuries of human life. And we've collected 14 million coughs that have been annotated by humans as such. With that kind of data, it's not surprising that our AI models perform remarkably well. And we're already being used in 42 trials around the world. And we're going to scale, in part through our partnership with Merck, who are making our consumer app, the Cough Tracker. You should all go on the App Store as I'm speaking and download it. Merck is supporting this because they feel it's going to help their patients better understand their coughs and their patterns, and have better informed conversations with their providers. And then finally, we're moving forward in the regulatory process and then nearly completing our pivotal validation trial. Hyfe is focused on cough because, to be brutally frank, our current management of cough is pathetic. And that's particularly problematic given that it's one of the most common symptoms for which people seek health care. And we claim to be living in this era of precision health, and yet we don't actually measure cough. And because we don't measure cough, patients and providers are not actually able to have meaningful quantitative conversations about this condition. Because the diagnosis of cough is frequently made through empiric drug trials, the diagnosis becomes very complicated. And because cough can't be counted, it's very difficult for drug companies to make drugs that reduce it. And all of this colludes on the basic and shocking fact that the last time the FDA cleared an antitussive was the year before I was born. And Hyfe is already changing cough care. We've cracked the code. We can passively measure cough. These measurements are being used by clinicians and research scientists to help with patient care and reveal fundamental insights about the biology and the statistics of cough. And I'll talk in a little bit about a digital therapeutic that we're embarking on. But I also just want to give a personal spin to this, and that is that I'm a chronic cougher. I cough 40 to 80 times a day. I have pretty much every day for the last 30 years, except for those days when I've had a URI in which I cough significantly more. And when I diagnosed myself with COVID in April, I called my provider who refused to give me Paxlovid, and I said, but I'm a cougher. And she's like, yeah, everyone coughs. And I said, no, look at this. Yesterday I coughed 457 times. And she wrote the script. And it's just a very personal example about how bringing data brings clarity. We're already having this impact because our technology is accurate, it's continuous, it's non-obtrusive, and it's privacy preserved. We're just about to complete our validation study, and I can tell you that the sensitivity is greater than 90%, the specificity is fewer than 2 false positives an hour, and our correlation to hourly counts as measured and compared to human trained listeners is 98.9%. Yeah, 98.9%. And this is done continuously. It's happening right now during the day on the watch, and then at night continues to monitor while it charges by the bedside. And it's non-obtrusive. There's no patches, there's no contact mics, there's no belts, vests, no wires. And because our technology runs on the device, it's privacy preserved. The only information that goes to the cloud is the session time and the timestamps of the coughs. In research settings, we can expand that and transmit more information. We can record every cough. But that's not necessary because of the way the technology works. Here is our first public display of some preliminary results from our validation trial. These are the first 5 patients. I'll say the rest of them look very similar. What's shown on each of these panels is the cumulative cough count over a 24-hour period. If Hyfe were perfect, these dots would perfectly align, and you'll notice that we're not perfect, but we're pretty darn close. And as I mentioned, we're being used to generate insights in 42 research studies that are addressing 14 different clinical indications. Although much of the focus is on refractory chronic cough because of all the progress that's being made, don't forget that many diseases have cough, and cough is an important parameter in clinical and I would argue regulatory context. Some of you may not want to hear it, but it's also one of the major side effects of inhaled medications. And that's now all quantifiable. We've already got, I think, 12 publications as of last week that are peer-reviewed using our technology. And I think the short summary here is that when you give people a powerful tool, it's a simple tool, just the ability to count cough, it blows open the doors on a new field of cough science. Here are 3 panels of some of the demonstrated clinical significance and utility. And I'm not going to go through all of them, the diagnosis and the prognosis, those are published papers. But I want to spend a minute talking about the middle panel, which is preliminary data from Chuck Daly's group at National Jewish Hospital. Chuck and his team routinely admit patients to the hospital it's an outpatient hospital where they train them in airway hygiene with cough-inducing procedures, and then the idea is they'll cough a lot and then they'll cough less. Never been any data to support this, but they thought it would work and had been doing it. And here's the data. Here are 5 patients, and you can see that this plot of their daily cough count decreases in all of these patients over the course of their treatment. I don't know if Chuck and his team were relieved to see this, but I know they were super excited to be able to show the patients that this procedure, which is difficult to motivate patients to keep doing, actually works, and their hope is that it'll improve adherence. I want to end my talk by announcing today that Hyfe is embarking on a digital therapeutic program. It's a poorly kept secret that if a patient with refractory or chronic cough visits a specially trained speech pathologist and spends 4 hours with that person over a month, and gets education, some cough suppression techniques, and some practice, that in very well done placebo-adjusted studies, their cough rate goes down by 41%. And thus, we're extremely excited about integrating that curriculum on a smartphone with a sort of closed loop, real-time feedback. And we're optimistic that we'll do as good or better as the published literature. I think this is super interesting, not just as a standalone therapeutic, but there's one study that suggests that this effect is additive to molecular interventions. And so it may just be that this is a wonderful companion to more conventional approaches. I also want to announce that we're adding 2 members to our scientific advisory board in support of this program. Dr. George Savage, he's a digital therapeutics expert. George was the CMO at Proteus. And Dr. Lori Slovarp, who is a speech pathologist and world authority on behavioral cough suppression therapy. So let me conclude by saying that Hyfe's continuous, passive, privacy-preserving cough technology is being deployed at scale, and we're already seeing impact in cough science, patient care, pharma research and development, consumer awareness, and I think soon we'll see it in digital therapeutics. I believe that someday people will look back and they will ask, some of us in this room, did you really try to diagnose, treat, and develop drugs for cough without counting cough? I further believe that that day is going to come very soon through the work that we're doing at Hyfe and the other innovations that are coming out of groups such as this. So, thank you very much. And let me introduce the next speaker. No, I have no idea what's coming next.